What up, Wizards? It's Dev, SVMTG. We like it, a magic, and we have got a big old week this week, y'all. Tomorrow, we're going to do the top 10 sleepers in Bro. And on Thursday, we're going to be live streaming during the early access event. Come check us out. We'll be playing some Brothers War decks and stuff. But today, we got to actually clean up spoiler season. We're going to do the best of the rest today. There are 10 whole cards that I missed during spoiler season, and in some cases, they're pretty okay. So let's finish off spoiler season officially with just a little bit more spoiler season after your spoiler season. That's right. We looked under the tree. It might be 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We've already opened presents and had the Christmas ham and all that stuff. Oh, there's a little present or two up under the tree. I didn't see that. Let's pull those out and let's look at some spoilers for the Brothers War. Now, there was some little stuff in the batch that we missed, like Emergency Weld, Survivor of Corliss, and the reprint of Blanchwood Armor, which I don't think I ever brought up. Cool to see Blanchwood Armor back, but I'm pretty sure it won't do a whole heck of a lot in Standard. But trust me, kids, back in the day, this was a feared card in mono green decks. I'll give my guy +5/+5. What you gonna do about it? Just actually, even if you're just giving your guy +3/+3, Armor used to be okay, but I'm just not seeing a world in which Blanchwood Armor can truly exist in Standard anymore, so we move on to Emergency Weld. This is a raised dead that can also get back artifacts, not just creatures. Put them in your hand for 2 mana, 1 in black, it's a sorcery. But cool thing here is you also get a 1/1, so this kind of reminds me of like Hunt for Specimens or something. If I'm searching my brain hard enough for a comparison, I guess that makes some sense, but this is probably just way worse in a lot of cases than a card like Hunt for Specimens was, because Hunt for Specimens actually saw some amount of play, and I don't know that this actually will. But being able to raise dead a guy for, double the mana raised dead cost, but hey, it's still only 2 mana, and it throws in artifacts, and you get a 1/1 guy, like, yeah, kind of sure, depending on the deck, but I doubt this sees too much Standard play either. Survivor of Corliss, on the other hand, maybe. I think we might have some better 1-drop options than a card like this, but it's still kind of neat. It's just 1 white mana for a 1/1 human soldier with first strike. You can pay 1 and a white and exile it from your graveyard to scry too. So actually kind of a lot of action on this little card. I mostly think that it's a curve filler for soldiers decks and limited, maybe. I think we might have enough soldiers to sometimes sort of reliably play soldiers in sealed and not just draft, but in draft. There's plenty of soldiers in the set. Make a decent soldier deck, and that's because there's 3 different, off the top of my head that I can think of, there's 3 different soldier 1-drops in this one set alone, and this might be one of the worst of them. It got an artifact creature that's a soldier. It's got protection from multicolored, gains life when your opponent plays non-basic lands. They got a Savannah Alliance recruitment officer. That's a really good 1-drop soldier. So this might be the worst of them, but still 1-drop, first strike, soldier, creature type, you want that. Human creature type, I guess you kind of want that some of the time too. And for what it's worth, scry 2 out of your yard in your aggro deck, I think he'll take that some of the time, so I don't hate this card. If you don't know the damage that just a 1/1 first strike can cause, you have completely forgotten about Fervent Champion, my friend. Shouldn't have done that. That was a ridiculous card. But let's move on here to Falagi Vanguard. This looks like a neat little thing, and we missed it too. Vanguard is 4 mana, 2 in Boros colors, a red and a white, for a 2/3 human soldier with first strike. So just based on rate alone, the rest of this text box should be really good. Let's find out. Whenever Vanguard or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, target creature gets +2/+0. Until end of turn. I think this is actually really neat, right? On subsequent turns, it can target itself, and then it's kind of a 4 mana 4/3 first strike, which isn't great, but it's fine. It's not the worst thing ever either. But the turn it comes into play, it can boost something else by +2/+0 and get your 3-drop in for a little bit more damage, so it's not terrible. It's no Thundering Raiju or anything, but in decks where you're playing tokens and you expect multiple creatures to come into play during your turn, I mean, once this starts doling out +6/+0 to a couple of different dudes, it can actually get pretty serious. I don't expect this to see too much Standard play either, but just remember that this exists in Limited, and when you're building your budget Standard decks that you want to do weird stuff with, you don't expect to be very good. I guess you remember this card exists too, because triggering whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, token, whatever, who cares? This thing could actually get out of control pretty quickly if you're putting enough creatures on the table at one time, and there are decks that are fairly capable of doing that. But let's look at Mask of the Jade Crafter next, because we never got to this one during spoiler season. I kind of like this too. This is 2 mana for an artifact. You can pay X, tap it, and sack it to create an XX colorless golem artifact creature token Activate this only as a sorcery. You can unearth this for 2 and a green. For 1, the mask looks like it might turn you into some sort of cartoonish master of slapstick comedy and violence, or it might just make you start singing Cuban Pete. But as far as the actual function of the card goes, I really like this. You know, you can cast it and also sack it with Power Stone tokens. There's going to be a bunch of those in Limited, so that actually seems really cool. And unearthing it late in the game, kind of neat too. You know, it's like an unearth card that actually allows the creature, quote unquote, to stick around after the unearthing. So if you have like 6 mana, you know, you unearth this, you just get a 3/3 that sticks around, which is actually kind of sweet. I've always wanted to unearth on like more non-creature artifacts, and this is still kind of sort of technically a creature when it comes right down to it. This is a vanilla creature too, with no real abilities or anything. But you know, I'd like again that it's an artifact that's not an artifact creature that unearths. They should play around with that design space more. And 2, you know, it's an earth creature. It's an unearthed creature that sort of sticks around, even though you unearthed it. So I don't know, some cool stuff about it. You know, you don't really want to spend your second turn playing this card. It feels like a waste. And any turn after that, like turn 5, you're going to spend all your mana to make a 5/5 or something. Like, maybe it's okay. Maybe it's fine. But then later on in the game, you can just make, like, you know, another 5/5 once you have 8 mana. And again, not the worst thing in the world, but almost certainly not going to see standard play. But the limited implications are there. They really are, you know, being able to cast it with Power Stones, being able to unearth it and all that later in the game when you have a billion Power Stones, you get like a 7/7 after the unearth, you know, 10 mana or whatever. Like, these things are very real possibilities in Limited, and I think that this could be a decent card there. But next, let's check out Pyrrhic Blast, because if Fling is in the format, you deserve to know. This is 4 mana, 3 and a red for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. Pyrrhic Blast deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to any target. Draw a card. So it's Fling, but it draws you a card. And it costs 4, you know, it costs double what Fling costs, which is actually kind of substantial. 4 mana is a lot, but again, it's Fling. It's in standard. And we just didn't have a whole lot of ways to Fling stuff in a 6-set standard now. So, you know, again, you deserve to know this exists. Drawing a card seems really good. It's like the best thing you can do in a game of Magic, all things considered. But a Fling should really end the game once it resolves. So drawing a card isn't amazing when you really think about it. If you didn't end the game with it and you actually do end up drawing that card and it matters, then you probably didn't do it right. I think Fling should just end things, but still, we just don't have a whole lot of Fling effects in the standard there, kids. So I think the Pyrrhic Blast is like at least worth bringing up. But let's look at Machine over Matter, because we somehow didn't see this during spoiler season. This is 2 mana, 1 and a blue for an instant that costs 1 less to cast if you control an artifact creature. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. It's actually pretty sick. Honestly, you know, for 2 mana, it's just kind of the going rate for this effect. But if you have an artifact creature that's only costing 1 for an unsummon that targets literally anything, is actually kind of amazing. Like, I don't know if it's going to be worth playing sort of, you know, artifact creature deck with blue in it in standard. I'm not too sure, but still, if you can cast this for a single blue mana, then it is almost always worth casting it, you know, playing it in your deck if you can reliably cast it for 1 blue. At the end of the day, it's still just a tempo piece, right? You lose the card and your opponent doesn't. They just have to cast the thing again. So you have to leverage this tempo really, really well, or use it at the exact right time of the game. But as we've seen with Fading Hope, sometimes Fading Hope is just like the most annoying card in standard. It's like you attack into 1 blue mana and you're like, they have Fading Hope, here it comes. Yep, there it is, Fading Hope, I'm dead. So it's like, it buys them the turn they need to switch it around on me. So they're turning the corner because of 1 blue mana. It's happened to all of us. And Fading Hope is a blowout some of the time. So if Fading Hope could target anything besides lands, then it would be an even more annoying card. And I get the feeling it's not going to be too hard to make this card work. So I'm not like scared of it. I don't think it's going to rule standard or anything. At the end of the day, it's just like a 1 mana tempo piece. But a tempo can mean a lot, as again, I think we've all experienced. Also, I kind of see you, Wizards, because it's called Machine Over Matter, and it's got Urza on it in the same purple cloak that he's in on Mind Over Matter, which is one of my favorite cards, literally, of all time, but I'm glad that you're never going to reprint that. It's a very annoying card. So, but I see the callback. Don't think that I don't see the callback. But anyway, let's look next at our top 3, because we're kind of already there, but these are easily the best cards that we missed. So let's take a look at Demolition Field. This card exists, in case you don't know, but that's okay because this card already existed in Standard. Demolition Field is a land. It taps for a colorless, or you can pay 2 and tap it and sack it to destroy target non-basic land an opponent controls. That land's controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. You may search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. So did you notice the very subtle difference between this and Field of Ruin that makes it technically better than Field of Ruin? Field of Ruin is each player searches their library, even the ones that didn't have to sack or get a land blown up. So Demolition Field is actually basically strictly better, but in Standard it's the same card as Field of Ruin. But now I guess when Field of Ruin rotates out, we'll still have Field of Ruin in the format, and it definitely has a place. Field of Ruin deserves to live in Standard. So I guess now you can play multiple copies of it in your deck, but like, is anybody already playing 4 copies of Field of Ruin? Do you need to play 6 copies of Field of Ruin or 8? I'm not too sure, but I just don't see why you have to switch to Demolition Field in Standard. But in Commander, you must switch to this card. But believe it or not, we left 2 rares on the table this time around. It's nuts, right? But I actually think that both of these could have like somewhat of real implications. But the one that I think is that is less true of a statement about is Death Bloom Ritualist. This is 5 mana. That's the problem. It's 5 mana. 3 in Golgari. It's black and a green. For a 3/5 Elf Warlock. Now you can tap it to add X mana of any color, and X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Which, if you're doing it right, is a lot of creatures in your graveyard. Like, how many times this season did I bring up? It's probably like 3 videos in a row. I felt like it was all I was saying. I was like, oh, it's self-mill, green-black self-mill. Hey, that Golgari, creature graveyard deck, whatever. Like Golgari Milkshake deck, the one that brings its boys to the yard. That deck could actually be like serious. It's kept getting pieces this season. And this is one of them. Although I don't think that this is playable. At the end of the day, I just don't think this is really where you want to be. But here's the praise, okay? So I've already said the thing that will assuage the spikes, okay? Just remember that before you go and you comment, duh, the card's terrible. Yeah, I acknowledge the card's probably bad. Probably won't see any play, okay? But here's where I do my job, which is to talk about the good things that a card might do, while also acknowledging that it's probably not great. But the green-black Golgari Mill deck. I don't know what to call that thing. But the Stick Fingers deck that also plays Urborg Lurgoyf. That stinking thing, right? I like that deck, like a lot. And I want that deck to be decent. It got some good pieces. The thing about that deck is that old Stick Fingers, you want to play that for like 1,000,000 mana if you possibly can. You want to play, you want to kick Urborg Lurgoyf twice some of the time. It costs like 6 mana, So where are you going to get all this mana from? You're going to get all this mana, maybe from this, Diregraph Rebirth, that deck sometimes plays that. And yeah, you can get down the mana cost on a Diregraph Rebirth to like a respectable cost after combat or whatever. But if you have to cast it for 7 mana, it's going to help you play it. That deck actually has not mana issues. That deck just has a lot of things that it wants to spend a ton of mana on. And I feel like maybe they knew that. So like, here, have this card. But also, I guess in Limited, this helps you get, those giant Titanous artifact creatures. Those 10 mana, big lumbering dudes that are all up in this set that you want to be playing. There's 8 to 10 mana guys in the stinking thing. And Death Bloom Ritualist will sometimes tap for 2-3 mana in Limited, somewhat reliably, especially later on in the game. So help you cast those there. But I really think that there's maybe first day or 2 of the season, if we try out Stick Fingers, I might shove a copy or 2 of this into the deck because, if you get it out, it taps for 7 mana pretty easily. So I'm pretty sure you can find something to do with that. The card might be kind of okay, but 5 mana. It doesn't do anything the turn it comes out. Probably not great, but I'm at least going to try it. Also, imagine if you can give this haste, then you can just tap for more than you cast it for on the same turn it came down, which is probably the actual way to break it if you're going to break it. But altogether, it begs the question, how much does a 5-mana card have to tap for before it's worth playing? Probably a lot, to be honest. But hey, this is not a comparison this card deserves. But you guys remember the 5-mana Nissa, the Planeswalker from a few sets back, the War of the Spark Nissa? 5 mana, double your mana, and how like ridiculously oppressive that card was for like a whole year and a half, you know? So again, doesn't deserve that comparison. I'm making it. You can't stop me. I mean, if this taps for like 4 mana, it's probably good enough in a lot of situations, but you know, again, I'll bookend this. I'll make this a sandwich and I'll bookend it by saying that the card is, yes, you're correct, commenter. The card's bad. It really is. But I can dream. That's my retort. Touché, you would hopefully say, when I say that I am allowed to dream. Speaking of living the dream, let's look at Fateful Handoff. What a card. It's so silly. It's 4 mana, 3 and a black for a sorcery. Draw cards equal to the mana value of target artifact or creature you control. An opponent gains control of that permanent. So it's like a donate, a harmless offering, whatever, but it draws you cards. It's really neat, you know? I'd say that the most popular thing I've heard said about this in Standard is to donate Solkanar the Swamp King. It's not so, it's Solkanar the Tainted, I believe, but still. You donate a Solkanar with this after you've used the 3 good modes, you know? You draw 5, and then your opponent is forced to pick the mode that gives it right back to you, so that's pretty sexy. If you can pull that off. You can also, by the way, turn enchantments into creatures with Zur, and then donate the enchantment. It's like a saga that's on its last chapter, you know, like you begin your turn, you get chapter 3 of the saga, like Fable the Mirror Break or something like that. Well, Fable is actually the actual worst example I could have used here. It has to be a saga that doesn't turn into a creature, you know, so just something that's going to go to your graveyard anyway at the end of the turn. Just donate them that like 4 mana saga or something, you know, draw 4. It seems fine. So there's, you know, ways you can do this. And again, that requires a Zur. So, you know, good luck having all the fun you ever wanted to have playing weird cards like that. But I don't know, you know, we saw Harmless Offering do a little bit of work in Standard. Obviously, donate the OG card like this is like part of one of the most legendary decks of all time. You donate Illusions of Grandeur to your opponent. You see, they didn't gain 20 life and you did. So they're not going to be able to pay the cumulative upkeep eventually, and then it deals 20 damage to them. Hilarious. We called it Tricks. What a wonderful deck. I'm just not seeing too much in Standard like that right now. But, you know, for Commander, I'm sure there's all kinds of ridiculous garbage you can do with this. Now that I think about it, back to Standard, because that's mostly what I'm known for, and I can't stop thinking about it. But I was probably right to bring up Fable of the Mirror Breaker now that I think about it, because you don't donate the Fable. You copy a creature with Reflection and Kiki Jiki, and then you donate the token to them at the end of the turn because you're going to have to sacrifice it anyway. Similarly, this could work pretty well with unearthed creatures in Standard, because, you know, you unearth a guy for like 3 mana or 4 mana or something, and you cast this. That still costs a lot of mana. But, you know, a lot of the dudes you're unearthing in this set are like huge boys. Their casting cost is enormous. So, you know, there's ways to like draw 10 off of this card in Standard. It's entirely possible, right? So, I don't know. There's some cool stuff about this if you want to draw all of the cards in the world, and I kind of do. Oh, Prototype. I keep thinking of stuff. It's all off my dome, but Prototype, yeah, like you cast a thing with Prototype for like 3 mana, but its actual mana cost is like 7, right? So you just donate it to your opponent and draw 7, and then you just remove the thing you donated with all the cards you drew, because you probably drew a removal spell if you didn't already have one. So there's actually a lot of different fronts just in Standard alone this could work on. And also, Scornful Egoist. But that is all for the set, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, that's the actual end of it. We called the last one Final Day, and I talked as though it were the last previews we'd be doing for the set. But no, we're doing the best of the rest, like my old buddy Wedge used to do over at the Mana Source. Miss you so much. I'm going to say it till you come back. I love you, buddy. But anyway, I just thought you might want to actually see the rest of the cards from the set, because like I said, a few of these, if not good per se, are at least interesting to talk about, which is like my favorite thing about Magic cards. Is that they can be just like garbage. They can just dog crap, terrible. But like they're still fun to talk about some of the time. All the weird, janky stuff you can do with them. Because if you haven't noticed, I don't actually care about good Magic cards. I care about fun Magic cards. That's what I like to talk about. And there are still a few today that we left out that were still really fun to talk about. So just let me know how you feel about the set. I asked you this last video, and a lot of you seem to be really hyped on this set. You think it's good power level, can't wait to play it and all that. And I'm kind of with you, man. I've been waiting on this set for 28 years that I've been playing Magic now. So, literally, I've been trying to figure out what even was going on in the Brothers War. Now we have like a whole set and like novels and stuff. It's nice. I've really enjoyed this spoiler season, all things considered. But all things, it's not over. It's not over yet. I mean, spoiler season is, yeah. But like I said, we got the top 10 sleepers coming up tomorrow on the channel. Make sure you sub here for that. And make sure you're following on Twitch, because Thursday we'll be participating in the early access event, playing some bro decks and talking to the fam on Twitch, chat and stuff. So come over and hang out with us. We have a good time there too. But that's pretty much it for this one. So guess I'll catch you cats later. I'm Dev from the place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.